Some of my viewers and subscribers are aware that I bought my Presonus speakers a little over a year ago. I stated they had everything I wanted and nothing I didn't need. That still holds true in the year 2024. One thing I left out of the video review that I'll provide a link to in the description box. When I first got these speakers, I connected them from the computer to my Revelator IO24, and then from the Revelator IO24, I used the quarter-inch phone jacks to connect to these speakers. Everything sounded fantastic. I then had a little mini phone jack that has the Y adapter out to RCA, and I connected the Mac Mini into the RCA inputs on these speakers. When I had the PC and the Mac Mini on at the same time, there was a weird noise. It wasn't super loud, but it was loud enough to be irritating. I didn't really think much of it because that wasn't the way I originally wanted to have my audio gear set up. What I wanted to do was have the Revelator go into the phone jacks like I did, but I wanted my mixing board to be connected to the RCA connectors on the back of this. That worked just fine. Another reason I wasn't really worried about the sound between the Mac Mini and the PC is because I don't really have the Mac and PC on at the same time. I'm usually doing something on my PC or I'm doing something on my Mac Mini. So it was kind of a non-issue, and I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, because if you have an Alder Lake CPU on your Windows machine and then you have a Mac Mini with an M1 chip or an M2 chip, you might not notice the same problems that I had. So that's why I left it out of the video. I didn't want to scare people and make them think that these speakers are noisy. They work just fine. The only thing I want to say is that any piece of audio equipment, whether it's your audio interface or your monitor speakers, especially if they're powered monitor speakers, issues can arise. I want to say that back in probably around 1988, when I was a teenager still living with my parents, I bought my first rack mount digital sound processor for the guitar. And when I played my guitar through that digital sound processor, my mom and dad said it would send little waves through the TV. I say that because my digital sound processor wasn't necessarily a bad product. Their TV wasn't necessarily a bad product. That's just the nature of audio and video gear. Some people have gotten the Revelator IO24 and said that theirs is kind of noisy. I'm sure a lot of you have seen videos for these audio interfaces, whether it's Presonus, M Audio, or Mark of the Unicorn. Sometimes in people's home recording studios, there's grounding problems, and that can cause problems with these audio interfaces. A lot of you probably seen the little USB device that you can put in between your computer and your audio interface, and for a lot of people that fixes the problem. My Revelator IO24 and my Presonus speakers work fine, but I know some people have had issues. But I want to let people know you don't want to just throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like I said, sometimes the issue can be fixed with a little USB adapter. As far as your speakers being noisy, like mine were noisy with my Windows computer Macintosh being on at the same time, which a lot of you probably wouldn't have to worry about. And I also want to let people know that some of these monitor speakers, when you get like around $90 or $120, some of them only have the RCA inputs and some of them only have the quarter-inch phone jack inputs. So you wouldn't have a conflict between two audio devices or two computers because there's only one set of inputs. So you would never have a conflict. Where this has an auxiliary input too that uses a mini phone jack, you could hook a cell phone up to it if you wanted to. So, the more devices you would hook up to this simultaneously, the more apt you're going to have, a conflict between your audio devices. Although I can hook up my Zoom effects processor into this auxiliary input and have my computer on and also have my audio board on, and it has a clean signal to it. Now, some of you might have a digital sound processor that has a conflict with these Presonus speakers, or perhaps a set of JBL speakers. Some people will give a bad review like, oh, this is really noisy. And I'm going to say right now, it's possible you could have a computer, could be AMD or Intel, and for whatever reason, when you hook these into your computer using the particular audio interface, yeah, they might just be really super noisy. It doesn't mean that your speakers or that your audio interface is a bad product. It's just in your home recording studio, there's issues. Just like if you lived in an apartment and you shut off all your audio gear, all your electronic equipment in general, and whether you had Presonus or JBL speakers, if you notice a funny noise coming out of it, it could be your neighbor to the left, it could be your neighbor to the right, it could be the neighbors up above, the neighbors below, just like the issue I had when I used my digital sound processor for my guitar at my parents' house. If I do have the volume up all the way on the Zoom Effects processor, and I have the volume all the way up on my Presonus speakers, whether I'm playing the bass or the guitar, it will distort, but it's okay because the volume's a lot louder than I'd ever have it. I have to back off like 75-85% on the Zoom processor and back off like 75-85% on the Presonus speakers. And then once I do that, everything sounds fantastic. I should let people know that whether I'm playing the bass through these speakers or the guitar through these speakers, it sounds just as good as my PA system. Don't get me wrong, I couldn't do an open mic night with these speakers, but they do get a really good sound. Everything works fine in my home recording studio, but I'm not saying these devices would work okay in your home recording studio. The same could be said about products from M Audio, JBL, Yamaha. You don't know until you get it in your own home recording studio if there's going to be issues with your audio and, in some cases, your video equipment.